In this video, I would like to speak about aging horses and how important it is to continue showing up for them. So, to give you a backstory, I practice classical riding, and yet many years ago, I decided to adopt a quarter horse, my horse Nemaya, to save him from slaughter. So Nemaya had been used and abused all of his life, and when I say that, I don't mean it lightly. Because of his talent, he had been overused in competition, and at the same time, because of his strong-willed character and his inability, or let's say his refusal to submit to human authority, he was often beaten and punished in many different ways. So in all of the years that I had been around horses, I myself had never come across a horse like Nemaya who had been so deeply damaged and traumatized. And needless to say, when I adopted him, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I was up for the challenge. Now, when I started working him in the classical manner, it wasn't an easy task, but as time went on, I could see a progression in the work, and we were slowly coming to know each other, trust each other, respect each other, and I could see a shift or a difference in his demeanor, not only towards me, but even towards other humans. And physically, there were a lot of benefits that were coming from the work that we were doing together. He was moving with more ease, his gaits were smoother, and he just felt better all around. And I had the sense that he was also enjoying the work that we were doing and learning new things. So it was very important to continue on this path and of learning new things, of keeping him interested in the work, and also for me, it was very satisfying altogether. Now, there came a point where I noticed a shift, and especially after a session in the saddle, I could see that the benefits no longer outweighed the recovery time that it took after the session. So the recovery time that he had to go through was much longer. And some of the old arthritis that he had been experiencing and the symptoms of which had softened were starting to come up again. And so at that point, I did have to acknowledge that I had to change something in the work that we were doing and possibly let go of the idea of working or of continuing to work him in the saddle. But this realization sort of met with a part of me, that ambitious part of me, who had seen the benefits, that part of me who had the experience of all the things that we had achieved, and also all the things that I thought we still could achieve. And so there was that part of me who, even though I noticed this shift in my horse, wanted to continue working him, progressing, achieving new things, just to kind of see how far we could get. And at that moment, I realized something that most of us find hard to admit, and that is that the attention that we give to our horses is often tied to what they can do for us, what we can achieve with them, rather than to who they are as beings. And when I had that realization, then I was very certain about the fact that I had to change something. Now, and this is a very common thing, by the way, in the horse world. In so many stables that I've been in, time after time, I have seen horses just kind of abandoned, left there, no longer being worked because they no longer can give the riders exactly what the rider wants, yeah? Because riders are just very demanding. We're so demanding that we don't really listen to our horses. And it's very sad to see them just kind of doing nothing. And now that's when I started to change things around. I decided to no longer work him in the saddle, and I respected the fact that he was getting older and that the time had come to do different things. And so I focused predominantly on lunging sessions, which were still very helpful for him. And he also was still very interested in doing that, and the recovery time afterwards was very short. So there is such satisfaction in doing things for your horse rather than for your own sense of accomplishment, or just for your idea of reaching a certain goal. And in the process of working my horse regularly on the lunging work, and in hand and on the ground, and learning new things in this particular way of working with him, I've come to the realization that horses absolutely love routine. They love to feel useful. They love to feel understood by their rider, and it makes them feel safe and secure. And there's so many ways that we can do that. In my particular way, I focus a lot on lunging, but also on grooming my horse. I like to keep the horse very clean, and I can feel that he's very appreciative of this. So horses are much more appreciative of even the smallest gestures than we are of them. Now, this idea of continuing to work your horse into old age is not very common, because horses at a certain point, like I said before, are kind of left to their own and there is such beauty in becoming creative, in finding ways to keep your horse's body and your horse's mind engaged up to possibly the day before they pass away. So with this little story and insight, I'll leave you with this. When your horse is no longer able to perform and to give you what you want, will you still show up for him?